Hello. This lecture is all about APA style. It will help you use APA style in this class and throughout the program. I will provide an overview of the APA Publication Manual, 7th edition, highlight some key sections and content, and then review how to do basic in-text citations. I know many of you have had experience, perhaps deep experience, in using APA style. This lecture is meant to provide an overview of the 7th edition of APA Publication Manual, review key content and sections of the manual, and then to review some in-text citation conventions that are highly used when citing work required across this class, starting with the first discussion board, and across the program in general. APA style is used in scientific writing and for student papers. This manual is for all of these purposes. It is a guide on writing style, citations, and also how to create an article for publication and submit it for publication. In this class, we will use this guide to understand the required professional writing style of APA and citing works using APA style. This is a requirement across the program. Also, we will use this manual to understand the publication process and parts of a research article to aid in our process of being better able to read and understand research. The 7th edition was published in 2020. If you have used earlier versions of APA style, you will easily adapt to the 7th edition. There are changes, but they are not dramatic. One nice online source for APA style is the Purdue Online Writing Lab. They have a nice section where they outline the changes from 6th edition to 7th edition. This might be helpful to review if you want a more in-depth look at what has changed since 6th edition. They also have a nice tool that helps you correctly cite resources, websites, books, journals, articles, online sources. Another nice online resource is the APA Style website. If you feel like you need more help with APA, they have very nice tutorials and webinars that you can access for free. Both of these websites are also listed in the syllabus and posted on Blackboard. We will start our discussion of APA this week with looking at chapters 4 through 9 that deal with writing style, professional language and writing, mechanics, and citations. Reviewing these chapters, particularly chapter 8, will get you ready for the first writing assignments in this class. APA style is required in all written work, the discussion boards most notably for this class. Chapter 4 begins by noting that the main objective of scholarly writing is clear communication, which can be achieved by presenting ideas in an orderly and concise manner. This chapter provides a nice discussion of professional writing and reviews important style and grammar guidance. Chapter 4 reminds us to choose clear professional language, that the tone of our writing is formal, not casual. Be sure that you use professional language that your audience will understand and that matches the language in the field. It is important to avoid unnecessary jargon, contractions, and colloquialism. Use an active voice as much as possible. Chapter 4 provides a nice in-depth review of use of pronouns, sentence construction, and strategies to improve your writing. Please review the sections that you need to. Chapter 5 is a very important chapter. Even experienced writers who use APA can likely benefit from reviewing this chapter carefully. This is an area that changes rapidly and sometimes seen differently by different groups of people. Chapter 5 reviews bias-free language guidelines. Chapter 5 provides a number of great examples of preferred language of different groups of people. Consult the people you are working with directly on their preferences and respect their preferences, is some of the advice that's reviewed in Chapter 5. If that's not possible, consult self-advocacy organizations on appropriate language that can be used referring to different groups of people. When discussing people with disabilities, there are two approaches to language that are used. All educators are probably familiar with person-first language. This is where you put the person before the disability disability or chronic condition. For example, people with substance use disorders rather than substance abusers. Identity First language allows people to reclaim what others may see as a disability and incorporate it into their personal identity on their own terms. This is preferred by some groups. For example, autistic people instead of people with autism, and deaf people instead of people who are deaf. Both Person First and Identity First language are good choices overall. It is appropriate to use either approach unless or until you know that a person or group prefers one approach over the other, in which case you want to use the approach preferred by that person or group, of course. Chapter 5 has a very helpful section about language around gender and gender identity. This is a new and important section for the 7th edition. Also important sections on racial and ethnic identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, and intersectionality are included in the 7th edition. When writing about different populations or groups of people, it can be helpful to look back at this chapter for guidance and things to consider in your own writing. I think this chapter is also helpful in challenging me to think about my oral interactions and oral language use as much as my writing. This chapter is an example of a place where the 7th edition gave much more guidance than the 6th edition. Chapter 6 is all about writing mechanics and the required conventions in APA style. It is a nice reference to use as you are writing and have a question about preferred spelling, one space or two after a period, it's one by the way, and when to use italics and all sorts of things like that. We have skipped Chapter 7 for now. It discusses tables and figures, how to set them up, how to discuss them. Feel free to take a look at this chapter. Chapter 8 is all about how to cite publications within your writing. In professional writing, you must cite the words, ideas, or images of others that you are using. To not do this would, of course, be plagiarism. Chapter 8 has a nice discussion of plagiarism that should be reviewed. Citations are very important in professional writing to provide support for your statements. Each in-text citation needs to have a full reference in the reference list, and all references in the reference list should be noted within the text. Chapter 9 discusses the related issue of reference lists. Chapter 8 and 9 have a great deal of detail describing the variety of sources you will come across and have questions about how to cite. At this point, don't get bogged down by the details. Just become familiar with the different types of sources, interviews, internet sources, articles, personal communications, etc., and know that this manual provides you guidance on how to cite these. Use this guide to help you as you come across the need to cite different sources. I want to go over a few common citations. These are the most commonly used types of citations and also introduce you to the general pattern of citation use in APA style. There are some basic parts of an in-text citation. These include the author's last name or names, the date, and a page number if it's a direct quote or you're quoting statistics. There's two different ways that you can cite things in APA style. The first is a narrative citation, and the second is a parenthetical citation. Narrative citations are often used to begin the sentence or phrase. Here is an example. Haskins, 1989, found considerable variability within preschools serving children and families living in poverty. The author's last name is Haskins, and the year the article was published was 1989. It is not a direct quote, and so no page number is needed. A parenthetical citation are citations at the end of a sentence. They still include the author and year of publication. Here you see an example with one author and then also one with two authors. Note that the period comes after the citation. The following table is from the APA Style website tutorial that I mentioned as a resource at the beginning of this lecture. I thought it was a nice table to show how to cite a number of different common author types in both parenthetical and narrative citation form. When you write a direct quote or a sentence that includes statistics, you must also add a page number. The reason for this is so the reader could go to the source and find exactly where the quote or statistics were in the article and see the context of the original language. Here you see an example of how to write a direct quote in both forms of APA. Chapter 8 provides more detail on how to correctly cite quotations, including citing long quotations, block quotations, materials without page numbers, etc. So again, as you come to need that type of information, look it up in the manual. This lecture was meant to highlight key aspects in the APA manual around writing style, language, mechanics, and citations. This is an important resource for your professional writing in graduate school and beyond. The detailed content is not meant to be memorized, but to rather use this as a resource to refer to as you are writing.